And I just wanted to thank the whole team here, with Claire and Anna for setting this up, and all the tech people. We've got David and Jace and Wendy, right? If I got that all right? Okay, I'm terrible with names, but so I think we're ready to get rolling here. Are you going to lead off?
Yep.
All right, pass it over to Lisa.
Okay. So, like Michael, well, we're going to talk a lot about technology tonight, but when I was a kid, we had this different kind of technology for entertainment and communications. It was called books. And I know the kids today haven't heard of those, but I bet you a few of you here have heard of that. And one of my favorite series was the Narnia Chronicles. Has anybody read that? Yeah, a few people have read that. So there's the second book, The Horse and His Boy, I think it is. And I don't know if you remember at the end, there's this bad prince, Rabadash, and he keeps making trouble, and he gets turned into a donkey. Does anybody remember this part of the story? And he ends up, he gets a curse put on him that if he ever leaves his home country again, he'll turn back into a donkey, and it's a way of making sure he doesn't make trouble for the Narnians. Well, I really could relate to that because I have a similar kind of issue. Whenever I leave my home country of Canada, people think I talk funny. So it's a bit of a curse. You know, my cousin is sitting here. She's like, you speak fine. But I will say, the same as Michael, if you're having difficulty understanding me, I'm speaking too fast, I seem to talk funny, just wave at me, and I'll slow down and try and enunciate better. So we're going to begin with looking at what the dangers are for our kids online. Okay, so there's a number of dangers. The first one we're going to talk about tonight is cyberbullying and cyber threats. The next is the sexting phenomenon, grooming, stalking of children online. Pornography we are only going to give a cursory look at tonight because we're meeting again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock to spend an hour and a half talking about that huge subject. Pornography and youth has been all over the media because it is an enormous issue these days. So we're going to give it some really good detailed attention tomorrow. If you're able to come, well, you're very welcome to attend that as well. We're going to look at unhealthy online communities tonight. And then a little bit later, Michael is going to, in the second half, look at internet and device addiction and the problem of exchanging real relationships for virtual ones. Okay, so I'm going to just dive right in with cyberbullying. So what is it? Cyberbullying is about using technology to be cruel. It comes in many forms. So the experts, Nancy Willard's the sociologist who studied all this, and she says, so we've got flaming, which is often kind of a two-way exchange, but it's becoming really nasty, okay? Often with a lot of degrading messages, vulgar language. There's harassment and denigration. Harassment is repeatedly sending nasty messages. Denigration is online gossip and insults about a third party. We've got outing and trickery, which are about sharing someone's private images or private information, whether you tricked it out of them or whether they gave it voluntarily, you then post it publicly, and it was not meant to be used publicly. Yeah.
It's been noted some of you can't see because of where Lisa's
Yeah.
standing, so I'll just give you a minute if you need to move so you can see the screen if you want to. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I can't move much.
I'm going to keep Lisa where she is, but if you're very welcome to move.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's worth seeing the screen. And I was going to mention, if you want to take pictures of the screen, take your camera out, take pictures, if that's a faster way of getting the information. Okay. Exclusion is that kind of, you're not in the group, and we're going to make sure you know you're not in the group. And the last one is cyberstalking, which is an intense form of harassment, and it often includes intimidation, threats, and creates significant fear. So cyber threats are distressing material or threats published online. Usually the writer is threatening to harm himself or others, or herself or others. And what children need to know is that while some cyber threats are just jokes, because kids make, vain threats sometimes online. Some are actually quite serious, and we don't really expect them to be able to know which is which, so they need to report all cyber threats to an adult, right? We'll leave it to the adults to work out what's more serious and what is just, making noise. We need our kids to know, too, that you should never, ever joke about doing something harmful to others and post it online. There have been kids, particularly in the United States, where they've been having monthly attacks at schools in the last year. There have been kids who've had, SWAT teams show up at their door with machine guns and, ready to take the kid down who was just making a joke. So it's not funny, and they need to know that the police take these things very seriously. So what are the impacts of cyberbullying and cyber threats? So research is showing us that it's similar psychological harms as face-to-face bullying. So we've got problems of low self-esteem, anger, school avoidance, and school violence. And of course, what we've heard a lot of in the news is depression and suicide. It's suspected that cyberbullying is actually more harmful, so we see these harms, the impacts are actually stronger for a few reasons. And one is that the online communications are often more vicious. There's something psychologists call online disinhibition effect, which means I can't see your social cues. In social cues, seeing you face to face, eye to eye, sparks my empathy. But that's missing online. So people are often more vicious. The audience is wider spread, potentially worldwide, and kids can feel like they're being exposed to the entire world in a moment. There's no escape for those who have online or devices. It's not just going on at school and then I leave and I'm home by 4 o'clock and it's all done for the day, and it's done on the weekends. A lot of our kids, Anna and I were talking about this today. Anna's on the Generations team here, and a lot of the kids, they can't actually imagine life outside their devices. Their life, their social life is so hooked in to, their texting, their social media, they can't actually imagine just walking away from the device. So they feel that they are constantly under threat if this is going on. The bullies in cyberbullying can be harder to identify. Sometimes kids are being harassed by people, they don't even know who it is. And that can feel even more frightening and threatening for them. So as parents, what are we going to do about preventing cyberbullying? I'm going to just list a few things here. There's going to be some handouts at the end of this evening, and there's quite a detailed handout on cyberbullying and what parents can be doing to prevent it. Okay, but an overall game plan is going to be to teach children to protect themselves. Okay, never provide any information or images in electronic form that could be used against them. So much of the bullying is around sexting. A lot of these categories that we're looking at tonight, they're actually all interlinked. It's really hard to separate porn and sexting and cyberbullying and predators, sexual predators. So I'm kind of making some false divisions here. And if you feel like, you forgot this thing, it may come up later. So one of the, sending especially naked pictures of themselves can be huge fuel for bullies. Kids can learn how to examine how they are communicating. Sometimes kids are inadvertently exacerbating a situation through their communication, and they can be taught communication skills. They can be taught to, to not reply in anger, to not reply with hostility. They can be taught that sometimes it's worth finding new friends. Girls in particular end up getting bullied when they really want to get in with another group of girls, and that's a real big goal for them socially. And that group is really kind of about toxic behavior where they put down others that are not like them. So they can be taught to have other goals, find other friends. Children should be taught not to retaliate. Don't reply aggressively, but to reply assertively to bullies. Children can be taught to stay away from communities and some apps that have a particularly poisonous culture. sometimes our very family rules can be really helpful in helping them to avoid becoming either bullies or being bullies, or being bullied or being bullies. So some key family rules that a lot of us have are just about courtesy and empathy and communication. We can tell our kids we expect them to communicate the same way online that we would to their auntie or their grandma or their little sisters and brothers face to face. We can teach them that one of our values is self-control, so we don't retaliate or seek to harm others. We bite our tongue. We can even sit back and plan, an assertive response rather than an aggressive reactionary response. Modesty is a value in a lot of our families, and therefore what we would expect online is to see modesty in images and in speech. There's a lot of, and when I say in speech, there's a lot of narcissism actually in social media. A statistic I read recently was that when people interact together, you'll usually talk about yourself about 30% of the time. But online, we'll spend about 80% of our communications are about ourselves. Isn't it interesting that it's just become so much more me-focused? So we can talk to them about that. We can say one of our values is privacy. We don't give out identifying information or personal information about ourselves, our friends, family members. Another handout you're going to have tonight is going to help kids distinguish what is dangerous identifying information. Because it's a bit confusing for kids because they're there to talk about themselves, but we're saying don't give out any information about yourself. So there's a detailed list of what's safe to talk about online. A recent statistic I read said that I think it was 20% of teenagers who had Facebook accounts had given their cell phone number out online. That's not safe, okay? That's the kind of information predators are looking for. So just teaching them about what kinds of information to share and what not. I'm going to be talking a little bit about this mantra. It comes from a lovely man named Chris McKenna in the US who runs a website you're going to hear loads about tonight called Protect Young Eyes. So it's protectyoungeyes.com. And Chris has a lot of resources for parents about various technologies. He has resources for children. He speaks in schools to kids of various ages. And his mantra for kids is whenever you see anything disturbing of any nature, put it down, tell someone. Really simple. Even very young children can remember that one and get on board with that. So as a parent, what do you do if your child is being cyberbullied? Again, this will be covered in more detail in the handout that you'll get. But one of the first things you can do is not click too often. No, wait. One of the first things you can do is contact the parents of the bully to discuss. If you know who the child is, oftentimes parents don't know what their children are up to online. And some parents will really appreciate knowing. Some won't. But it's a good place to start. Send an assertive message. Teach your child to send an assertive message to the bully asking him or her to stop. Very frank. This is, I would like you to stop. Sending me email. The next thing that they can consider doing is block or unfriend the bully or file a complaint with the site or company. So you can file with a lot of the social media sites and apps, you can file a complaint. Consider leaving that online community if the culture supports bullying. If there's a lot of that going on, there can be other places to hang out. Now, sometimes the bullying is illegal, threatening, or immoral. In that case, that's a slightly different situation. You should preserve the evidence as a parent, knowing that something potentially criminal is happening or something that looks like it's going that way, and that if the police need to be involved, then they'll need to see the evidence. Here in New Zealand, we are very fortunate to have netsafe.org, who is really helping the police deal with kind of the explosion of online criminal activity, some of it of a lesser nature in that it's a lot of child issues, and some of it is what they call drama. Some of it is just kids mouthing off at kids. And NetSafe really helps kind of sift through and figure out, what needs to be followed up, what needs to be sent to the police. If you suspect that someone is imminently going to be harmed, like you see a cyber threat that looks like something, somebody's saying they're going to do something tomorrow, please contact the police immediately. Don't go through NetSafe. But if it's something of kind of a lesser nature, start with NetSafe. And consider counseling for teens who tell you they're having trouble coping, or you can see that they are having trouble coping with cyberbullying. Okay. If you haven't, that's cyberbullying. As I say, there'll be more in the handout. So if you have any questions, you can kind of sneak a text in or write something on a piece of paper, because I'm going to move on to sexting now. Again, not completely unrelated. So according to a study in the UK in 2013, this was a study of 13 to 18-year-olds, 60% said they had been asked for explicit photos or videos of themselves. 38% said they had created a sext. Of these, 32% said they had sent it to someone they knew online only, not in real life. Of those who sent a sext, 20% said it had been shared with others, and 28% said they did not know if it was shared. As I've already mentioned, sexting is related to cyberbullying and to some of the other issues we're going to be discussing tonight. So, the sexting phenomenon, there's a more recent bit of research out of the US from 2015 that said that of the sexually explicit content produced by children 15 years old or younger, 85.9% of the content was created using a webcam, which tells me that we're probably seeing more video content as opposed to just still images beginning to be created by children. 93.1% of the content featured young girls. We'll talk more tomorrow about the pressure on young girls. If boys are being pressured to view pornography, young girls are being pressured to be pornography. Okay, that's what's going on in the teen culture right now. That said, young girls are also being pressured to view pornography. 89.9% of the total images and videos were distributed on third-party websites. Almost 90% of that content went out into the world. So sexting behaviors are significantly associated with consuming pornography. So there's a link there. Girls send photographic sex twice as often as boys. So again, there's that tendency to be pornography. Though this phenomenon with boys, music video consumption is significantly associated with asking someone for a sext, especially for boys. Sadly, our sons need to be taught that if they're asking a girl for a sext who's a minor, the police could be showing up at the door next day. And I know families to whom this has happened, nice Christian families. Police are at the door, and they're having a talk with the son. Okay, so this may be the thing all the kids are doing, but it's actually crossing legal boundaries. Peer pressure and popularity are key factors in why teens sext, despite knowing the potential risks. Okay, there's a really strong pressure on our kids. Everybody's doing it kind of thing. In fact, almost half, 46% of teenagers say sending sexual or naked photos or videos is part of everyday life for teenagers nowadays. Only this study, this is the only one not from the 2015 study, that was said 10 years ago. And guess what? It's not gotten better. It's gotten worse. Yeah, that's from, the first one was from Internet Watch Foundation in 2015, and the last stat, I'd have to look up the source, but I just made a note that it was from a study 10 years ago. Oops. So we're going to talk a little bit about sextortion. It's related to the sexting phenomenon. There's basically two types. The first is threat of harm to the child. Unless you send me an image or a video, XYZ bad thing is going to happen to you, to your pet, to your family member. Okay, so you have to cough up something. The other type is, the child is persuaded to send something, and then it's like, well, I'm going to forward it to your family, your friends, unless you pay me money, meet up with me, run away with me. We're going to talk about this. This is actually a ploy of sexual predators who are looking for children to sex traffic. They start by getting them to send images, and then they threaten them if they won't leave with them. There's something called slut pages, which is when girls send sex and then somebody outs them. We were just talking about it in the cyberbullying, by posting it online on a page of a bunch of the pictures. Technically, that's not sextortion because the only goal, sadly, is just to be cruel. We know that there have been suicides around this kind of stuff. So how are we going to prevent sexting and sextortion? So children need to be taught, and I know this seems silly to have to say it, but we do. We have to say this to our kids now. They have to be taught never to take pictures of their private parts, and certainly never to send the pictures to anyone. Everything on this slide is in my book for kids 10 to 14 on the sexting phenomenon. It's actually sexting and pornography, and talking about it from a very non-shaming point of view and from a Christian point of view, why it's worth doing sex God's way. Sex is good stuff. But this is not part of healthy sexuality, the whole sexting phenomenon. I used to just say that kids should be taught never to send pictures to anyone, but I'm hearing more of kids who are taking other kids' devices, taking pictures of themselves and leaving them on the devices. So they actually need to be taught not to even take pictures of their private parts. And as much as we may think this is obvious and shouldn't need to be stated in today's society, it does. Oh dear. Lisa and her uncoordinated thumb. There we go. So we also need to teach them that all pictures can be saved. So some of the apps mislead our children. Snapchat will say, oh, well, these pictures can't be saved, so you can send them and then they'll disappear. Okay, that's bogus because anybody can save a screenshot. Okay, and sometimes the person sending is notified, but that can be disabled in some apps. Okay, so that they're not even notified. They don't even know that the person has kept a screenshot of their sext. They need to understand that revenge is a huge issue in teen culture. A photo can be posted a month or years after it's taken. After the breakup, after we're not friends anymore, right? So it's not worth it. We also tend to tell kids the internet is forever. Your boss, your potential boss, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, can look up your old Facebook account, can do a Google search on you, and could pull up any of this stuff. So, maybe they won't find it, but maybe they will. So kids need to really think before posting anything online. So in terms of preventing, we need to be having an ongoing conversation with kids about sexuality. You'll notice this is the field that Michael and I work in predominantly, is around sexual addiction, sexual health, pornography addiction. You'll see a lot of the books up there are on those kinds of themes because it is where we do most of our counseling work. So you're often going to hear me say to parents that you need to be having a lifelong conversation with your kids about sexuality, and it starts very young and always age appropriate. Their natural curiosity will tend to lead you. And if you prove to your kids that you can be their source, you're the expert in their lives, they're not going to need to go outside and take other people's. Because a lot of kids say they're getting into this stuff because, they need an education. They need to know how to do this stuff. They can't be left in the dark. Well, you need to tell them that, well, mom and dad are the people that can educate you on this. You don't need to go looking out there, because often what is given to kids outside of the family is a burden that's really too heavy for kids. It's not meant for kids to be carried. We need to talk with them about the temptation in today's pornified culture and show empathy for those who make mistakes. Kids need to know it's going to be safe to come out and confess when they did get drawn into something unhealthy. Because you know what? Most of them are going to. That's a sad reality today. Pressure's huge. And they need to know that we're safe people to confess to. We need to educate them about predators and sextortion, okay? We need to let them know that sending a photo to someone may mean they can be found in real life. Michael's going to talk about that when he talks more about technology. There's location data in those images that will say where the picture was taken to within 2 feet, less than a meter. Your children can be found by predators that way. They need to understand that as uncomfortable, we need to remember that as uncomfortable as these conversations may be, and we may have concerns about creating an interest in sexuality that's beyond their years or an evil, and I do hear that from parents, and I understand that because I have felt that myself. Why do I have to read good pictures, bad pictures to a 10-year-old? One of the books up there. Because by 10, most of them have seen online pornography already. They've seen things that you and I have, well, probably a number of us here have never seen. And that's the sad reality. By 12, many of them have seen horrific acts of sexual violence on the internet. A friend has shown them. They stumbled on it themselves. They clicked on something. So we need to actually be more proactive than we would like to be in having these conversations. And again, if you are not your child's sex educator, the world will be, and the world is messed up on this. So social media platforms. We'll talk a little bit about them as regards, you can find cyberbullying, you can find sexting, you can find porn. Social media is full of all of these problems, and it's the draw for girls in particular. Boys are struggling more in the area of video games, where you can also find sexual predators, you can also find porn, but the social media in particular has a real draw for the girls. And parents just need to be aware that any app that allows people to upload content, pictures or videos, is always going to have a very dark side. There will always be porn. There will be people's self-made porn. There will be people hoping that little kids stumble on it and trying to set it up so they will. Any app that is difficult to monitor will have greater risk of abuse by teens. Some of the app makers purposely make their apps difficult for parents to monitor. Any app that allows users to give anonymous feedback is likely to attract and create bullies. Okay, if you want to know more about any particular app, I really do recommend that you go to Protect Young Eyes. Sorry, there's 2 websites very similar. They're both good, but Protect Young Eyes gives you the lowdown on each app. Pardon? Yeah, one word. Is it .com or .org? .com. He has a better memory for that kind of thing. Oh, I keep doing this, don't I? Can anybody here identify? So we've got here we've got the icons of 3 popular children's apps, particularly known for predator activity. As we move into talking about sexual predators, can anybody identify the first one? Yes. Roblox. Yep. ROBLOX. You'll see it in a moment. Thank you. You are the winner of the set of motive games. I'll explain that a little bit later. Thank you. The Kik is a SMS. It's a messaging app aimed at kids. I think they 12 in the young teenage range. Anybody know the last one? Musically. Very good. Full of predators. So let's talk a little bit about what the predators are doing. So in terms of online predators who are looking for either little boys or little girls, usually contact is initiated via games. Boys, they know there are more boys hanging out there, and social media apps if you're looking for little girls. Roblox is a game, Kik, Musically. There's been parents have found their kids finding horrific pornographic videos on these sites. Musically is aimed at kids 8 to 12, I think. Like these are apps that are actually specifically targeted to young children. Okay, there's social media sites, right? That's a good place for predators to hang out. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Dating apps, you can find the older teenage girls there, sometimes the boys as well. Photo messaging apps, Snapchat, Instagram. Video chat, messaging programs like Skype, FaceTime, ooh. Sometimes they contact them over email. Live streaming programs, it's become a weird virtual forum for the crowd to egg on girls to do video sex. Periscope, YouNow, Meerkat. And then online games like Roblox and Minecraft have also had problems with predators. Chat rooms, e-chats, virtual worlds. It's almost hard not to meet predators in a lot of those. Okay, we talk a little bit about stalking. So stalking is about invading a child's privacy in order to get them to get access to them or to sexualized images of them, with or without their knowledge. Okay. So one of the ways that they'll stalk is by engaging with them over social media or researching them. Stalking often starts with researching. What do they like? What are their interests? How can I get a conversation going? Screen recording when video chatting. Try and draw a kid into a video chat and then they'll record it. Taking screen captures of snaps and other temporary, quote-unquote, temporary images. Asking child questions while they're distracted playing a game. Okay? Asking them to enable the camera. This has happened for a number of young lads. And when they're really absorbed in the game, it's really hard for them to defend against, anything. Michael will talk more about games after. Downloading images from online and social media accounts, some of which may contain location information. Again, Michael will talk to you about that in a bit. Borrowing devices to access private information or photos on them. Can I just see your phone for a second? I just need to make a call. Start emailing yourself some of the photos. Taking photos, videos of a victim while in a changing room, toilet, cubicle, gym shower. This has also been done as part of cyberbullying, and again, there have been suicides around some of the videos that have gone on around this. Obtaining photos using a motion detection camera. So there's different spy devices that are affordable even to kids. And they are used sometimes by sexual predators and by cyberbullies. Installing viruses or hacking software to gain control of devices. There are cases where they've hacked into a kid's computer that is in the bedroom and then got photos and imagery, off the computer and stalk the child that way. And again, using that GPS data in photos to physically locate a child. So in terms of grooming, generally the goal is to isolate the child. And they can do that on chat sites by inviting them into a private chat room. They'll try and friend them on Facebook, get them they'll invite them to be friends, and then they'll start private messaging them. They'll ask the child if there are any adults nearby. These guys are really good, these guys and gals, because it's not just guys. Women are often used, especially by the actual rings. They'll be used as the front person because more people are because women are just more trustworthy online. So if a woman invites you to meet up in person, that seems safer. So it's a common technique. The child could be asked to follow somebody into a private area of the game world. There have been cases where that happens, and then they simulate sexual acts in front of the child as part of the grooming process and breaking down sexual barriers, sexual inhibition. Child can be invited to move from public to personal communication medium, video chat, calls, email, text. Then as part of the grooming process, usually they'll be asked personal questions, often of a sexual nature. There'll be a lot of personal comments made, compliments, often of a sexual nature. They'll use research that they found about the child, their likes and dislikes, to pretend that we have a lot in common. And basically they're going to break down sexual inhibition over time and then ask for pictures. Finally, in the grooming process, the child will be invited to meet in real life. At that point, we have that issue of them being threatened with exposure if they don't up and leave. Sometimes some kids are just drugged and taken away So, this is a frightening phenomenon. Most of our research comes from the United States. I cannot tell you how much it happens here, but considering that we know that there's a lot of issues in New Zealand around sexual offending, and that there's actually percentage-wise, if we look at our prisons, there's a higher number of people in prison for sex offense-related charges here in New Zealand than in the United States. We can guess that it's happening as much here as there. So I'm running behind, so I'm actually going to not give you a little sample of Chris McKenna. No, we can't. Sorry, Chris. Some other time. Check out his website. He's got free videos right now. Normally there's a cost to them, but I think for the next few weeks there's still videos for kids of various ages. In that video, he's showing, it's an example of him talking to kids aged 12 to 14 about sexual predators. Because let's face it, that's not an easy conversation to have with your kids, because we don't want to scare them to death. Online is so scary you can never go there again. But he talks about creepy hooded guy. So anybody that tries to contact you online that you have no idea who they are, just assume they are a creepy hooded guy. For younger kids, he talks about tricky people. Assume that everybody you don't know is a tricky person. And then he tells them that tricky people will say things like, when I'm mad at my parents, I go to my room. What do you do in your bedroom? Oh, I love Lake Taupo too. How long does it take you to get there from home? I love dogs too. What's the name of your dog? Birthdays are the best. When's yours? What's your school like? Where is it? Who's your favorite teacher? Where does your family live? Hey, I think you're in my neighborhood. And the kid replies, well, I don't think so. This is my neighborhood. Can you keep a secret? Kids need to know there are no good internet secrets. Okay, so preventing sexual predators preventing our kids from becoming prey to sexual predators. Teach children, put it down, tell someone, right? In this book, I talk about ACT, and that's more related to kids dealing with pornography. Put it down, tell someone, I think is actually brilliant, and it's just so simple. Tell them don't answer questions asked by strangers or engage in conversation with them. Never ever arrange to meet them in person or even in the virtual world. Never turn their camera on for a stranger. Send them images or go on to video chat with them. Online strangers should be considered potentially dangerous until independent real-world sources confirm who the person is and that they have a background that provides assurances of safety. Sometimes people impersonate others, right? If your friend from hockey is asking strange questions, put it down and... Exactly. For older kids, we can tell them about the different kinds of personal information. And as I said, that'll be on your handout. So in terms of parental prevention, boy, we don't mean to, but we as parents sometimes actually endanger our kids. Bragging on them on Facebook to our friends. Look, wasn't she cute at the choir? I do it too. I want to brag on my kids. I want to tell my friends. But if I do it in a public forum, there's people that have access to my child's images. Okay, we need to review our device and social media platform privacy settings to ensure we have the right level of protection. Okay, Protect Young Eyes will walk you through the different privacy settings for any app you can think of. We need to ensure there is no identifying information in the images. It's so tempting. Oh, they look so cute in their school uniform, and I just get in close enough and they can read what school they go to, right? School signs, house numbers. Look out, don't post any photos that have that kind of identifying information. And make sure that GPS location data is not included on your images. Again, Michael will talk to you about that. So, here's some general rules of thumb. Don't allow children to use apps. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm speeding now because my... Is that it? Yeah. Oh. I should just use these. Oh, shoot. Okay. General rules of thumb. Don't allow children to use apps or sites for which they are underage. Please keep in mind that when they say this app is suitable for age 13 and up, the people who are saying that make more money the more people are using their app. Okay, they're not actually thinking about your child's actual developmental stage and age. They're thinking about how much money they can make. Chris McKenna says for most social media, 15 makes a lot more sense than 13. And even with that, take into account your child's cognitive, emotional, and spiritual maturity, as well as their history with technology. If your kids have had problems misusing technology in the past, they may not be ready at 15 even for some of the normal social apps that kids are using. Check the privacy settings on all your children's accounts, what info they are posting. Okay? The internet is not a private place. You do not owe your kids privacy there. Okay? Go in and check. Emphasize real and spiritual over virtual life. Okay? Michael will be talking more about that. Help children to feel special. Kids who get bullied, who become victimized. I mean, it can happen to anybody's kids, and it can be completely not a parenting issue. But frequently, kids who have more in-depth relationship with their parents are less prone to these things. It's not a magic piece of armor. It's not going to guarantee that your child won't struggle with these things, but it reduces the likelihood. Teach them about God's good plans for sexuality and marriage. Okay, when kids know that there's a vision, that something that they're working towards, it helps them to keep going past the temptations of the moment sometimes, not always. Monitor where they go, who they hang out with online. Again, if you wouldn't allow your kid to go anywhere in Hamilton to hang out, I don't know if you have a red light district here, but if you have if you wouldn't allow your kid to hang out after 9 in the red light district, why would you allow them to go anywhere they want online? Because you know what? It's a big red light district. Model digital transparency. If we ourselves are transparent about how we're using technology, where we're going, our profiles, you can come visit, you can see what I post on Facebook. Then they're going to know that, oh, transparency is actually the norm. Everybody in the family is expected to be transparent. Have family-wide digital health and safety rules. For example, in our house, we have no one's online after 9 p.m., except when they're getting a presentation ready. Other than that, we're not allowed online after 9 p.m. Sexual predators, what to do. If you have found evidence that your child is interacting with a predator, do not confront your child because they could warn or run off with the predator. Okay? Do not confront the predator. It's so tempting. I know every dad is going like, I'm going to throttle the guy, right? But you actually have to kind of go, actually, I'm going to do something better. I'm going to help the police get this guy. So don't confront the predator and tell him you're going to take action. Preserve the evidence, call the police, and ask for a youth or online crimes expert. Consider installing monitor software, but not telling your child if you suspect you don't yet have evidence. And that seems harsh, but you're talking about somebody that wants to destroy your child's life. In the balance of things, it's not that harsh. So what to do if your child confesses that they've been interacting with a predator? Comfort and thank them. It's okay to show emotion, but be mindful that in that moment your child is very emotionally vulnerable. It's a very difficult thing. So you may need to go process this, with another adult, with a counselor. But in that moment, to the best of your ability, you can show that you're distressed and angry, disappointed to a degree. But remember your child in that moment. They need you to be there for them. Ask for the full story. And then ask them about preserving evidence. Can we preserve the evidence? Can we contact the police? And that may require this next step before they agree. You say, I want you to understand that while you've made some bad decisions, you're the victim of a perpetrator, okay? But now you can help protect other children. Okay, this is what happens if you can agree that we can preserve some of this, because some of it may feel really embarrassing to the kids. But if we do this, we're going to accomplish something really good. Make lifestyle changes for the child who's engaged with a predator. And when I say lifestyle changes, I don't just mean for the child. I mean for the whole family. It's probably time to rethink as a family how we engage with the internet, what our online and our digital lives look like. Okay, it's very tempting to smash the phone, to run over it with a car, to throw the computer out the window. I know. But if we're going to take away something from our kids, it can be really, really a positive thing. We can redeem this whole situation by giving them something to replace it with in the real world. And let them input on what that could be. Maybe the kid has always wanted to take guitar lessons. Okay, you know what? I'm taking away your smartphone, you're getting a dumb phone, but I'm signing you up for guitar lessons next week. Or we're gonna do a family night from here on in, something that's going to engage them in real life. Okay, and again, get their input on that. Seek counseling for your child if needed, if they express suicidal ideation, show perpetrator tendencies, or ask to see a counselor. As I said, we're not really going into pornography at this time, but you've probably already gotten the hint that it's in here. It's all over the place. All of these areas, porn is involved. And I just thought this would be one thought for tonight. The greatest serial sexual abuser of children on the planet is pornography. Whether a child is shown pornography or stumbles across it accidentally, pornography itself can function like a perpetrator, prematurely awakening sexual feelings within the child. Really fast, harmful online communities. You've probably heard a little bit as well in the news. Suicide and self-harm communities. Blue Whale Challenge, over, I think, 150 kids in Russia killed themselves around this app. It was a suicide app. Okay, because of our high teen suicide rates here in New Zealand, the law has changed as of this past spring, and it is now a crime to incite, counsel, or procure another person to commit suicide, even if that other person does not commit or attempt to commit suicide in consequence of that conduct. That's the new addition to that law. Okay, so these communities are taken very seriously here. Contact Net Safe. Hate group recruitment in gangs, also very common. Risky sexual behavior groups. Violent gaming groups, and again, the violent gaming isn't just, playing Grand Theft Auto online. It's often stuff that involves extremely aggressive and often pornographic and sometimes illegal pornographic material. Sorry, Chris, we love you, but yeah, we've got to keep going. So key messages for our kids around all this that we've discussed so far: cyberbullying, sexting, cyber threats, unhealthy communities. Nothing done on the internet or in instant messaging is private. All information will remain on the internet forever. Information from text and email can be retrieved by law enforcement. Anyone who contacts, it said anyone who contacts your kids online who doesn't know them in real life is potentially lying about their identity and their motives. And some forms of cyberbullying, cyber threats, hate activity, sexual activity are a crime, and police monitor sites for criminal activity. Okay. Internet safety strategies: ask for that transparency, live transparency in your home. Devices need to be in public places in the home, ideally in school as well. Oh dear. Immediate reporting of bullying. Okay, that should just be a family rule. Immediate reporting of bullying threats, unusual contact by strangers. Parents need to monitor online communities. Where is your kid hanging out online? Spend time with them on their sites. I'm just going to sit with you while you hang out. Okay, I know family members that will play games with their kids online. They don't play alone. Ask questions. Who's that? What's going on for them? Do app audits, which Michael will talk about. Okay, that includes random visits to your kid's cell phone, iPad, and put monitoring software on. Michael, again, will talk more about that. Boundaries. Sometimes we just have to say some sites, some apps, some devices are off limits, okay? And often that's involved around their history or the history of their friends. It's just the safest approach. Kids need to know that internet is a privilege, not a right. That would seem obvious to us in our generation. It's not to the current generation. They actually think it's a right. I'm going to pass this over really quickly to my husband, who's going, ooh, not let me a lot of time.
It's all right. She did a very good job of speaking clearly and slowly, though. It's good. All right. So let's see where we get to here. Oops. Yeah. So yeah. As Lisa said, internet privilege, not a right, and so a few points here. I'm just going to skip ahead to the next bit here. So I'm going to start talking about technology solutions to kind of technology problems. But the first thing I want you to keep in mind, and if this is the one thing you remember, every security measure has a workaround or a hole. So any effective program for keeping your kids safe is going to involve an ongoing dialogue with them about what's going on in their lives and what's going on online. Because there's a way around pretty much everything, and the kids are pretty savvy at finding them. So the first thing you want to do for your home is to get a plan. So unfortunately, it's kind of like it's good to have a friend who's an IT expert. And unfortunately, I have a very short amount of time up here to talk to you, so I can't get through it all. But there are probably people in your community who can help you with this, any of this that you find a struggle. But the basic issues are you need to secure your home network, and I'll show you some easy ways to do that. But then you have to individually secure each device that accesses your home network as well, because those devices may leave your home network, and those devices, and there may be a workaround around your home network protection. So the more layers of protection, the better. And specifically, setting up monitoring of social media is really important. So as Lisa said, kids should understand that their use of social media being a privilege it's just understood that it is not a private place for them to hang out, and that they should even tell their friends. We always told our kids, tell your friends that no emails that they send you are going to be private. So prepare yourself now that doing some of this is actually going to cost a bit of money on an annual basis. But now Lisa's highlighted some of the dangers, and we haven't even gotten into the porn very deep yet. It's well worth the investment. And again, protectyoungeyes.com is kind of the go-to. So I'll go across a couple of quick solutions. If you don't catch all of this, it's okay, because most of this information was sourced from protectyoungeyes.com. Because even as an IT guy, it's hard for me to keep up with it all. So go online, get some advice about the equipment that you have in your house. So there's actually a New Zealand-based company that produces something called Safe Surfer, and it's a pretty good first line of defense. And they do it. They're a registered charity, so it's a pay what you want. And basically, how it works is you twiddle some settings on your router, on your internet modem, and then that starts filtering everything that goes through. Now, it's a very coarse level filter, though. It only filters based on the name. For example, it can either allow you to go to youtube.com or it can deny you from going to youtube.com. It won't make any distinction between any of the content at youtube.com. So it's a very coarse filter, and so it's good to have in place, but it shouldn't be your only level of protection. And they do have a little hardware device that actually makes it a bit easier to get going if you're struggling with getting your router set up, and it's all quite cost effective. So a slightly more expensive one, but a slightly more advanced one, is a solution called Circle with Disney. It's available here in New Zealand from 2 Degrees. You can order it online, and it involves a hardware device that costs about $170 New Zealand, and the service costs about $5 US. And the device just pairs with your wireless network, and actually it uses some kind of hacker techniques to kind of take over, so all the internet traffic ends up going through it. It doesn't necessarily work with every modem, so mileage may vary. So it might be good to check out whether yours is supported by it before you invest the money. And I'm sure 2 degrees would give you the money back if it didn't work as well. So the pros is it's got really good controls for what apps, what times your kids are on, so you can kind of set up these curfews and it'll manage them. The cons are that the filtering in it is pretty weak, so it's not to be relied on. It's good to have a second layer of filtering, and I'll get into that. One of the easiest ones is ISP level filtering, so your internet service provider. Typical cost is about $5 New Zealand a month, and there's a couple, I think Slingshot and MaxNet both have an option where they do it at their end, so there is no, there are ways to get around it, but they're really difficult. So the downside of this one is it doesn't actually give you any records of where your kids have been. So Circle with Disney will give you some level of where your kids have been and what they've done. This solution won't. So that's kind of your home network. Each of your devices should be secured individually, especially those that leave the home or those that can use 3G or 4G data, because those ones can, so like a mobile phone can circumvent your home network and still get on the internet. So the first easiest and cheapest thing to do is to look into parental controls. iOS devices from Apple have pretty good parental controls built into them. And there's actually technical articles Apple has on what all the settings mean and what they do. There's a bunch of third-party filters that you can install, including, there's one called MobaSip, which is quite good and works across a wide variety of things. I'll get into that. And there's another one called Force Field. Covenant Eyes, we've heard about already, and that's quite popular. And then there's one for social media called Bark, and I'll do a little bit more on these. So here's a table which gives you a bit of information. I'll go over it at a high level. Again, all this is on protectyoungeyes.com if you need to reference it. So MobaSip. So that's we got this guy here. There's a free version and the paid version is about $40 US a year. But it works on an enormous number of things, including even Chromebooks. As far as I know, it's the only one that runs on Chromebooks. But there's iOS, Android, Mac, PC, Kindle. And they say it's best for primary school-aged kids, and it has a very strong filter built into it. It'll even block inappropriate YouTube thumbnails. So that's a good one for younger kids. There's the next one up is called Force Field, and that's only for the mobile devices like iOS and Android, and so that's about $12 US a month. So that's more into primary to early high school, and this one is intended to help you teach them mentorship, not censorship. So it gives them a little bit more freedom, but it does put some guardrails in place so that the parents will get a text or an email of something if they go off the rails. And it works well with Bark. I'll explain what Bark is in a moment. Covenant Eyes is kind of the granddaddy of them all. And it works across a wide variety of things, but not Chromebooks. And this is really good for high school and young adults. And Covenant Eyes is a Christian company that runs out of the States, and their primary focus is on accountability. So they also do pretty good filtering, but their accountability reports are really good. So it's really easy to purchase this as a family and have everybody set up with their own account, and you can choose who your accountability emails go to. So it's really quite powerful that way. So that's what I use in our home. We're all set up for that. Bark comes highly recommended. I have not personally used it. I actually have a dumb phone, so I don't do and I don't actually do social media myself. Part of my history, it's just safer that I stay off those things, so it's my personal boundary. But Chris McKenna at Protect Young Eyes recommends this highly, and this is a specialized monitor that does social media, email, and text messages. And there's actually artificial intelligence built into it on the server side that looks for patterns that might indicate drug use, cyberbullying, depression, any of those things. So, and the parents will get an alert about it. So it's another added cost, though. Again, it's like $100 US a year. But of course, I mean, the cost of something going horribly wrong with your children is much higher than that. So just coming back to parental controls, just for a bit, this is just a sample of something that you can do. So this was pulled off of Protect Young Eyes. So these are some step-by-step instructions on an iPhone of how to turn off GPS data to your phone, specifically for your camera. So by default, all phones will embed GPS data in every photo that they take. And so this is some instructions on how to turn that off. There would be similar ways to do that on Android, but again, I don't have time to cover that all tonight. Is it? Okay, I'm not sure we put it in the handout, but it might be in a handout. Okay. But one of the things that I strongly recommend is that you do regular unannounced phone audits. It's just if your children are going to be carrying a smartphone, this should just be understood right from the beginning that we're going to have some say over what you run on it. In fact, I would recommend using the parental controls you install the software that you want them to have, and then lock down app installation. Look up every app that's on protectyoungeyes.com one by one. So we showed you some apps earlier that have some serious backdoors to porn and bullying and all those sorts of dangers. So Chris McKenna on Protect Young Eyes will, on an app-by-app basis, will tell you what the pros are and what the dangers are. Make sure you look in any hidden folders, and the general categories you're looking for is anything to do with an internet browser, social media, or a game. One other word of caution is phone tethering. One of the reasons I don't carry a smartphone is they can be locked, they can be used to tether any other device onto the internet. So even if you got the phone locked, on Android and iOS, it's not possible to turn off the hotspots and the tethering. So if somebody else has a device that's not protected, you can use your phone to get that device onto the internet. So that's just a danger to be aware of. So one of the questions you want to ask right up front is, can I use a clicker? Yeah. So does your child actually need a phone? And if they do, you decide they do need a phone, do they need a smartphone? So that's my dumb phone. I purchased this one out of the UK. It's a bit tricky even to get dumb phones that don't have any internet on them, but this one actually has no internet circuitry in it whatsoever. And it's possible to kind of do some tricks to get one of these to New Zealand. So if you have questions about that, you can ask me later. So yeah, but do be careful about dumb phones. The ones that do have internet access is actually harder to monitor than the smartphones because, Covenant Eyes won't run on it. And yeah, securing your computers. So we already talked about some of the same solutions are for your computers that were for the phones. So MobaSip, Covenant Eyes. Most of these will force on the safe search features like on Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, YouTube. It's actually worthwhile going into your kids' Google accounts if they have them and forcing on Google Safe Search and Google and YouTube Safe Search. You can find instructions on how to do that pretty easily on the web. Parents should know all the passwords to their kids' social media accounts. That should be one of the conditions of having one. And I would recommend, it's really tempting to let your kids manage your internet routers and stuff because it seems like it's easier for them, but I would recommend that you be the keeper of the password to the internet routers so that you can do things like install Safe Surfer. And the other thing to consider is it's not just the obvious things in your house that you need to lock. We've got smart TVs and ebook readers and game consoles. The PlayStation 4 has actually been a major vehicle for porn consumption. So if you look at stats on places that serve porn, some of them release yearly reports. The PlayStation 4 is actually a really popular platform for viewing porn. So enable parental controls on each device, and in your internet modem you can actually lock specific devices off your network if you want to. So you can look up instructions on how to do that, or get some help. Hello. Okay, file sharing. I'll just say a quick word about this. This is like BitTorrent or other ways of file sharing. Kids are really into it. They tend to exchange music and other things on it. But I just want to point out that, these sites are illegal because they're breaking copyright. Because of that, I mean, if they're going to break one law, why not break several? So these places are often full of child porn, all sorts of other stuff. So it's just not a wholesome place for your kid to be hanging out. So I would really recommend that people really decide what your values are as a family, whether you're going to support digital media rights so that authors, artists, developers can make a living from their work. Kids, even beginning in my generation, I was a prolific pirate on the Commodore 64 when I was a kid. We're just generationally, we've kind of lost that sense of things taking effort to produce and then thinking that everything should be free. Just like a last note, like Lisa mentioned, it's really important to live the values that you want your kids to live. It's often easier said than done. We should make internet accountability family-wide lifetime discipline. There's a temptation for every person on the internet. So, as Christians, or not, it's important for our kids' sake, to live, an open life. Make face-to-face connecting a family priority. Lisa's mentioned that again too. It's a huge protective measure for your kids. Share spiritual, emotional, physical, non-sexual intimacy. And that's okay. And sign and display. So we've actually, in the handout, we've put in a clean and safe media pledge sheet that you can get members of your family to sign.